So, last night I played poker using tarot cards. I got a full straight and 4 people died. Stick with me, folks. This gets a little bit more complicated than official Chinese Jinglish. So even at this age, I'm trying to always increase my knowledge base. This weekend, I was mesmerized and went out and obtained an original copy of Mein Kampf. I was fascinated by it, read the entire thing. You want to know what a real prick Adolf Hitler was? The book had no dedication. So I'm getting married in July. My fiancée is a psychologist. Yeah. It's a little intimidating being with a psychologist, particularly one that's younger than you. It's always a constant discussion about lust and romance and which consent forms to use. It's also a little bit more by the fact that each year my belly starts to get bigger than my erect penis. I'm not so much saying that I need Viagra, but I find that over the years I need to have pink body paint to apply to my Johnson because when it gets erect, it lights up like a blue neon sign. Anyway, one night we're making love. It's the first time we're making love. I think every one of us has gone through that experience. First time you're with somebody. It's new, it's exciting, it's nerve-wracking. It's a little different being with a psychologist, though. We're in the throes of deep, wild passion. Suddenly she whispers into my ear, deeper, deeper. So I began quoting Nietzsche. I also became painfully aware of my lack of knowledge of the African-American experience. So this weekend, I went out and rewatched Denzel Washington and Malcolm the 10th. Jimmy cracked corn, and I don't care. What in the hell kind of attitude is that? All right, so I'm divorced. I've been dating for a while. I come from California. Dating in California is quite weird now. Do you want to know why Forrest Gump was set in Alabama instead of California? He wanted to be intellectually stimulated. So dating when I was in college was very different. Usually we went to a bar. You might meet somebody, have a few drinks, get their phone number, wait the designated 2 to 3 days, call them and set up a date. Now with the internet, everything is so instantaneous. These dating sites are just completely amazing to people from my generation. Are you familiar with this dating site, Seeking Arrangement? Oh, some of you are. It's a sugar daddy dating site. Let's be honest, it's for people my age, millennials. Yes, I've used it. And we have to be pretty honest about what it's all about. I mean, she's looking for money and you're looking for a raging hard-on. There's no other way to put it. But, there are some nice women on there. I have to admit, I've met a few nice ones from that site. But nice in California is a relative term. One young lady I met, I don't want to say she was shallow, but she made the resting place of the Titanic look like the beach at low tide. Anyway, it's a little, shall we say, one-sided in these arrangements. Took the young lady out to dinner one night, went to a very fancy restaurant, pulled up, had the person park our car, seated by the maitre d', given the wine menu. We're perusing the menu. I look across to her and I say, do you know what she wants? And she looked straight at me and said, new tits. All right, well, let's now bring up Tim Williams. Timmy!
Cheers. You all right? Yeah, okay. Get the audience banter out of the way. So, who's got kids? 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 Insincere attempt at doing everyday observational humour there. That's not the sort of thing that I do, is it, observational humour? That's not the sort of thing that you associate with me doing everyday observational comedy. Who's got kids? Who's got kids? They're annoying, aren't they, kids? They run around and they make a mess and knock stuff over. Who's got kids? Who's married? Who's married? Which side of the bed do you sleep on? Yeah, you sleep on the left-hand. So do I. I sleep on the left-hand side of the bed. And then you go and stay in somebody else's house. You sleep in you sleep on the same, is it? No, it doesn't work. It's not the sort of thing that I would do, is it? Observation, not the sort of thing. I wouldn't do impressions. That's not the sort of thing you'd associate with me, doing a routine based on impression. Oh yes, now I'm the consummate thespian, you know. Yes, I can play any role. Shakespeare, yes. Oh, I say, that looks very, very hard. I hope you're not going to put that through my back door. No, there is enough room. Get your filthy hands off me. Oh. Michael Caine, that wasn't it, yeah. So that's a sort of Kenneth Williams. Look that up on YouTube later. That was an accurate impression. Impressions. I'll have a vodka martini, please. Shaken, not stirred. Like he's in the room. It's like Roger Moore is actually here with us. The difference between you and I, Scaramanga, is that when I kill, I do it for Queen and country. Come, Mr. Bond. You derive just as much pleasure from killing as I do. When I kill for Queen and country. What on earth are you doing, Commander Bond? I'm attempting re-entry, sir. See, that was... I can do... You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. Michael Caine, that was actually... It's not the size, it's how you use it. She was only 16 years old. See, that's Michael Caine, isn't it? I've prepared the Batmobile for you, Master Wayne. Be careful. I've buried your parents. I don't have to bury you as well. That's the sort of. It's not really, but it's not the sort of. I mean, everyday observational humour. That's not the sort of thing that I would do. I mean, I have got a kid, as it happens, and a couple of weeks ago he had to read out a quote from Picasso as part of a presentation that he was doing at school. And the quote went, "I constantly strive to do that which I cannot in order to learn how to do it." And what he meant was, as an artist, you're constantly trying to push the boundaries of your craft, of your art. You're exploring new areas of creativity. And you're not afraid to experiment, even if it goes wrong. Right? See, that's the sort of thing that you would associate. Like Picasso, art, that's the sort of thing that I would do, isn't it? Like, my son said to me afterwards, he'd done the quote and he looked and he said, "Daddy, who is Pablo Picasso?" And I explained to him, I said, Picasso is one of the most important Cubist artists of the 20th century. He sort of broke the mould in terms of what painters could do, and he sort of paved the way for people like Jackson Pollock and the abstract expressionists, Mark Rothko and the mood paintings. Now, my son is only 6 years old, so I'm not sure how much of that he absorbed. But I said, would you like to see some paintings by Pablo Picasso? And he said, yeah. And I've got this book of surrealist paintings at home that I bought from the Tate Modern Art Gallery last time I went to London. That's the sort of thing you can imagine me doing, isn't it? That's the sort of thing that I would do, isn't it? Go to an art gallery in London. Yeah, not in some other city in the north of England, some shithole up north, like Manchester. Imagine me in Manchester, Leeds, all that northern scum, racists, voting for... That's all they do up north. They on the dole claiming benefits and drinking cheap whiskey. That's me in London. Metropolitan... middle class, politically correct London with it, multicultural London with its Muslim mayor. Yeah. Sadiq Khan. Don't get a name more Muslim than that, do you? Sadiq Khan. Yeah. And he's not just any old Muslim. He's a liberal Muslim. So liberal, he isn't really a Muslim. He only goes to the mosque photo opportunities so that white liberals believe that they're voting for a Muslim, even though they know nothing about Islam. Sadiq Khan's a Muslim, his name's Sadiq Khan, his dad's from Pakistan. Just because your dad's from Pakistan doesn't make you a Muslim, okay? He doesn't pray 5 times a day, does he? He doesn't fast during Ramadan. I doubt he even knows which direction Mecca's in. Can't just call himself a Muslim, to Sadiq Khan. What do you know about Islam? What are the 4 pillars of Islam, if you're an expert? 5, there you go. Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn. What's the difference between a Sunni and a Shiite Muslim? I don't know. It's interpretations of the Hadith, isn't it? What are the Hadith? I don't know. I haven't done any research. I just want to vote for a Muslim, even though I know nothing about Islam. So yeah, I was at the Tate Modern Art Gallery in London, next to the Globe Theatre. Shakespeare. You can imagine me watching Shakespeare, can't you? That's the sort of thing you can imagine me watching Shakespeare and then afterwards quoting extracts of the play with my metropolitan, middle-class, Oxbridge-educated, politically correct friends, doing drugs and quoting Shakespeare, convincing ourselves that we're rebelling against the establishment, but in actual fact we're just a bunch of self-indulgent, pretentious wankers, quoting Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. You never thought you'd hear Shakespeare quoted in the Shipyard, did you? Never thought that was like, now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this sun of York, and all the clouds that loud about our house now lie in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Yeah, Richard III. You must know. I should be at the Globe Theatre doing Shakespeare on a stage alongside Ian McKellen, Sir Ian McKellen, Knight of the Realm. I should be at the Royal Shakespeare in Stratford-upon-Avon, the birthplace of Shakespeare. My dad lives in Stratford-upon-Avon. You can imagine that. You can imagine me having a dad who lives in the birthplace of Shakespeare. That's the sort of me and my dad watching Shakespeare and then discussing the plays afterwards, and then unable to close the emotional distance between us. Metropolitan, middle class, emotionally retarded, liberal elite. So I was at the Tate Modern Art Gallery in London, next to the Globe Theatre, Shakespeare, and I'd just been having some Spanish tapas, a little Spanish tapas bar on the banks of the Thames. That's the sort you can imagine me doing. You can imagine me eating tapas on the banks of the Thames and ordering a food with Spanish pronunciation, even though the waiters are from Romania and don't. And then afterwards going to have Lebanese for dinner in North London, Islington or Muswell Hill. That's the most elite liberal part of London. Elite liberal London, North London. That's where you imagine me going to a Lebanese restaurant and sitting on those cushions with my legs crossed and eating the food with my hands, because that's what and looking down all the people eating with a knife and fork because they don't know how to eat Lebanese food. That's the sort of thing. That's where all the elite liberal politicians live in North London. All those centre-left, moderate Labour MPs, they live in North London. Harriet Harman. So you don't even need to know who Harriet Harman is to understand that name reeks of smug middle-class entitlement. Harriet Harman. Tessa Jowell. Like that Tessa Jowell. She's dead now, Tessa Jowell. She died last week or the week before. They're writing obituaries about Tessa Jowell, and the obituaries contained literally nothing. All they could think, a member of the liberal elites died, we need to write an obituary to say something about it. What do they say? She had a lot of friends. Who gives a fuck that she had a lot of friends? She was an MP for 30 years. What does she do? Evidently nothing. Just spent all her time getting pissed with her friends, by the sound of it. Tessa Jowell. Tristram Hunt. What kind of prick is called Tristram Hunt? Tristram Hunt, a Labour MP. Hello, my name's Tristram Hunt, and I'm here to represent the working classes. Tristram fucking Hunt. Tristram Hunt cares so much about the working classes that he resigned as a Labour MP in order to become director of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Tristram cunt. Peter Mandelson. That's just the name, Peter Mandelson. Hello, Peter's a slimy little... Harriet Harman, Tessa Jowell, Peter... Anyway, so I was at the Tate Modern Art Gallery in London next to the Globe Theatre, Shakespeare, and I just had some Spanish tapas, and then later on I went to North London to a Lebanese restaurant to eat some Lebanese food with my hands, and I saw Harriet Harman in the restaurant eating hummus with her hands. She wasn't even using bread or vegetables. She was eating it without licking the hummus off her fingers, because that's how liberal and politically correct Harriet Harman is. She eats hummus with her fingers. So yeah, and I had this book of surrealist paintings that I got from the Tate Modern Art Gallery, and it sort of tracks the whole surrealist movement from the late 19th century to the present day. Artists such as Juan Miro, René Magritte, Matisse, Di Chirico. See, that just rattled off a list of surrealist artists with the correct pronunciation. How pretentious is that? So yeah, and then I said to myself, would you like to see some paintings by Picasso? And I opened up the Picasso section. And my son took one look at it and he said, I can do that. I said, yeah, you can do that. He turned over the page to the next one. I said, yeah, and that. I went to the whole section of Picasso paintings, and he insisted I can do that. I can do that. You're as good as Picasso, are you? And he went, yeah. As if I had the nerve to even doubt his genius. And he said, well, get me some paint and some paper, and I'll show you. And I got him some. And he sort of looked at the Picasso painting, and he took 3 brush strokes, looked at it again, and then looked at me very intently, and he said, actually, Daddy, I can't do that. So one of the main criticisms of a lot of surrealist art, particularly in the early 20th century, was because they'd broken free from all the realist forms of the past. These new surrealist paintings looked like they'd been done by children. Now, my son obviously proved that the critics of that time have no idea what they're talking about. And in some ways, I was proud of him for doing that. But at the same time, I thought back to the original quote that he was supposed to read. I constantly strive to do that which I cannot in order to learn how to do it. And I thought, if you get up at school tomorrow and say that, you will be guilty of the most rank hypocrisy, right? You can't get up there and say that. You are an embarrassment to me. You've let me down. You've let your mother down. I don't get out. I don't want to look at you. All right. I don't think it's unrealistic to expect my son to aspire to be one of the greatest artists the world has ever known. I don't think that's pushy parenting. I think that's perfectly realistic. But there's a serious point there about having all these inspirational quotes that we try and indoctrinate children with, give them mad ambitions at an early age, quotes from writers and artists, but you're not trying to inspire them to be writers and artists, you're trying to inspire them to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, set up some multi-billion-dollar corporation, then steal everybody's personal data and make even more money from selling it. That's what the whole thing's about. But, I remember when I was 21, I saw Bill Hicks for the first time. Bill Hicks, you know Bill Hicks? Yeah, Bill Hicks. I saw Bill Hicks for the first time. And I thought, I can do that. I can do political humour. I can do stand-up comedy. And now I'm 35 years old. I realise that I can't do stand-up comedy. I'm not Bill Hicks. My political humour is not the humour of idealism and passion and rage. My political humour is the humour of dejection and disappointment, betrayal. I remember the first politician I ever believed in, and it sounds stupid saying it now considering what happened, but don't laugh. Tony Blair. Yeah, I know. I said don't laugh. I know, but I was young, I was impressionable, I was desperate to feel hope. I was in love with the idea of hope. And Tony, he was charming, he was good-looking, he was very persuasive. He had a magnetism about him that other politicians just didn't have. And my mum warned me about it, said, don't fall for Tony, he's not all you think he is, that charm, it's just shallow. Yeah. But I couldn't help it, I would have done anything for Tony Blair. I would have walked across broken glass in bare feet for that man. I had so much faith that he was going to change the system. And after a couple of years, it became apparent that my mum was right. I should have listened to her. The promises were empty. The dreams were shattered. He wasn't interested in changing things. He just wanted to stay in power for as long as possible. But I thought, no, that's fine. I still feel something for you, Tony. I would never leave you. I would never leave him. I would never vote for another party. I would never vote Conservative or even Liberal Democrat. I would have stuck with Tony. I felt I owed it to him. When I found out he'd been seeing another politician behind my back, George W. Bush. I thought, all right, fine. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was just one night. Maybe you were drunk. Maybe. But then I found out what they've been doing together. Planning an illegal war in the Middle East. And I thought, that's it. I can't forgive you now, Tony. Get out! Don't touch me! Just take your things. I never want to see. I am never voting Labour again. Get out! Made me feel that, and then you just wrenched it out of me. You have destroyed my ability to feel hope for another politician ever again. That's it for me. It's finished. Well, that was it. And over the years, there were others who came along. Smooth, sweet-talking, charming. Obama. I thought maybe Obama's going to change things. Oh, no, but remember Tony? Remember how much hope you had in him? And well, Obama, maybe. Yes, we can. No, we can't. Hillary. Never in a million years would I consider feeling anything for that woman. Even if I was drunk. I was at such a low ebb at one point. I'd thought about ending it all. I was drinking pretty heavily, and then I can't believe I'm saying this, but I even briefly considered the possibility that Donald Trump might be the solution. I know. It's like you're at rock bottom, your marriage has fallen apart, and your life's gone to shit, and then you get pissed and you walk down to some seedy alleyway and have sex with a 60-year-old prostitute because you think it's going to make you feel better, but you just feel worse. You feel 10 times worse, and you're on the street retching. Trump! That's what... I just basically given up. That's... And then in 2015, a politician walked into my life, and everything changed. And his name was Jeremy Corbyn. Like a British version of Bernie Sanders. Had to say that in case they don't get it. Jeremy Corbyn. And he wasn't like other politicians. He was scruffy, he didn't wear sharp suits, he didn't care what the media thought about him. He only said things because he genuinely believed them. And I'd never encountered that before. And everyone was like, oh, you can't trust Jeremy Corbyn, it's all going to end in tears, he's unelectable. And I thought, yeah, maybe they're right. And then I heard him speak, and he said something that got me here. He said, people say to me, Jeremy, what is the point of having principles unless you have power? And he said, well, I say to them, what is the point of having power unless you have principles? Where does that end up? Where do you end up? You end up in an illegal war in the Middle East. That's where you end up. You end up in the pockets of the bankers and the financiers. You can't challenge the system. You can't challenge the vested interests because you are the system. You are the vested interests. I said I wasn't Bill Hicks, didn't I? So, you know. But yeah, and that was it. That he got me right there, and I thought I'd felt hope. It made me reassess everything. I thought I'd felt hope for Tony, but I'd never felt hope like this. This was a completely different feeling. But it wasn't. That's not enough. It's all very well feeling something for someone, but that reality kicks in. You've got to win elections, you've got to campaign, you've got to hand out leaflets, you've got to get a voice in the media, and everything was against me and Jeremy for 2 years, and I thought about ending it. I thought, this is never going to work. We should get rid of you and go for someone electable, like Tony Blair, Hillary. That went well, didn't it? That was the best decision the Democrats ever made, nominating Hillary. I'd pretty much given up hope. And then last year, Theresa May called a snap general election, and it looked like everything was going to shit. Labour on 23% in the polls. It looked like it was shit or bust. This is it. This is the end of me and Jeremy. Well, I was desperate. I was over here in China, 5,000 miles away. What can I do? I can't go to the UK. I can't campaign on the doorstep. I'm on Facebook 12 hours a day, endlessly reposting Labour Party memes. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going mad. And then I did something that I have never done before. I donated money to a political party. £50 to the Labour Party. And that £50, that donation, that was like a scene at the end of a romantic comedy when she's at the airport and she's about to fly off forever, and then he races through the rush hour traffic and gets there in the nick of time, and I love you, I love you too. It doesn't happen in real life because you don't have your dialogue written for you by some second-rate comic writer like Richard Curtis. Love Actually, Notting Hill, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I was standing in the church and I realised that the woman I loved wasn't the woman standing next to me in the veil. It was the woman standing opposite me now, in the rain. Is it raining? I hadn't noticed. Andy McDowell and Hugh Grant. That's what it was like. That's what that 50 quid was like. A desperate man at an airport trying to win back a woman he knows he's lost. And that was it. On the day before the election, the polls were terrible. It said that Labour is going to be a Tory landslide. And I woke up on the morning of the election and I looked at the Guardian update on my phone and it said, hung Parliament. No overall majority. The Conservatives cannot govern without coalition support. And I thought, I can't believe I'm seeing this. All right, they didn't win. They didn't win, but they didn't lose. And that's a sort of, that's it. That's the end. I don't know how to finish this now. Convention dictates that you start with your second best joke and then end with your best joke, so you end on a really big laugh. And I've sort of messed that up. There were some laughs throughout. There were long periods of silence and disinterest and confusion. But although I'm ending on a note of uncertainty, right? And while I know that's not funny, but I think it's appropriate for the situation because nobody knows now which direction we're going in. So I think that's. I constantly strive to cannot in order to learn how to do it. Don't be afraid to push the boundaries of your craft. Don't be afraid to experiment, even if it goes wrong. Like now. Oh. So that's it, yeah. So sorry. Sorry for wasting your time.
Let's give it up for Tim. That was pretty good. All right, Tim. All right, we're going to take a few-minute break. Go back and enjoy the bar. Bring your drinks in. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.